Hello, Internet, and welcome to Sounds of Stadia SideQuest. I'm your host, Richie, and on this week, unfortunately, Chris couldn't be with us, but I am joined by the techie teacher himself, Mr. Tom.
I am here. I'm present.
Yeah, once it's Chris missing, not you.
I know, yeah. Makes a change, doesn't it, that?
It does. So we're going to spend this entire show taking the piss out of Chris, as is tradition.
Yeah.
But what we're actually going to be talking about is what we hope to expect from E3 in general. But before that, quick bit of housekeeping. Make sure you like the video, subscribe to the channel, and hit that little bell icon for notifications. We have YouTube memberships, which start from as little as 99p, which give you early access to Sounds of Stadia SideQuest to support the channel massively. And you get a whole host of emojis and a nice little Stadia controller to your name when you join us for shows such as our Thursday night live streams, where we've been playing everything from Resident Evil, and recently we started jumping back into some more of the community stuff like PUBG, potentially MotoGP 2020.
Ooh,
That's
maybe.
Potential like
insert game here.
Yes. And if you want to catch out our podcast, we have a weekly news podcast that comes out every single Monday on YouTube and all podcast services. And if you want to continue the conversation even further, we have a Discord. The link is in the description below. So, Tom, E3.
Yes.
Is it even relevant anymore?
It's a good place to start, isn't it, really? The relevance of E3 itself, because if we look back at last year, E3 was non-existent. It was non-existent. And instead it was replaced with the likes of IGN's Summer of Gaming, the Summer Game Fest, and essentially every plethora of studios just going and doing their own thing, like Ubisoft Forwards, etc., wasn't it, really?
Yeah, so those who don't know and are listening to this, hello, but E3 is a massive gaming convention that happens almost every single year, but it's been traditionally more aimed at press and media and game developers being able to showcase their stuff in usually like a massive auditorium with loads of booths and everything as you want. But because of the COVID pandemic, that couldn't happen, so they basically just cancelled it, then led every single developer practically under the sun suddenly like, what do we do? Where do we announce our games? So Summer Games Fest was brought up by Jeff Keighley last year to basically replace E3, and well, that's still going this year, and they're actually at the same time.
Ooh, a knife between the ribs, so to speak.
In some ways, but I don't think Jeff Keighley sees it like that. So the difference is E3 is very much its own contained ecosystem, where yes, if you're a developer and you want to showcase at E3, you pay a fee or whatever to have a space, usually on the show floor. This year's is going to be entirely digital, but same rules basically apply. Summer Games Fest just seems to be a way of almost coordinating all the different press conferences as developers are doing their own things.
I would argue that Summer Game Fest is now perhaps more relevant than E3 is to the individual gamer like ourselves, personally. It seems to be much more targeted that way because it has the likes of they have like an opening band doing a performance, then they have like all of the individual developer and publisher press conferences and events, and they even have like days of events going on. It becomes exactly what it's known as, a game festival, essentially, in a digital context. Whereas E3, as you said, was very much originally sort of like, it was for journalism, it was for business, rather than for the gamer themselves.
It's quite interesting when you hear people who've been involved in the gaming industry on a journalism or business side for a long period of time. They seem to not be overly fond of the fan participation in E3. They think it's almost taken away from what E3 was and how useful it was for them.
Yeah.
So Summer Games Fest might actually push E3 back into that area, and it could actually be the best of both worlds.
Could be. But it could be. There is a world where they can coexist.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And this year I think they're in more direct competition with the both being entirely digital.
Yeah.
But I think from next year, hopefully, if E3 returns to having a physical location, that may change things. They may be able to coexist. In fact, we do know they coexist because there is some press conferences that are slated to be at both.
Yep.
And this is what I mean. Sometimes now developers tend to pushing their own thing rather than waiting to turn up to the stage at E3. Classic example would be Ubisoft Forward.
Yes. Yeah. Which is, let's be honest, the Ubisoft Forward will also be hosted on Ubisoft's YouTube accounts as well, and their Twitch channel. Like it'll be on,
sounds
on all
Stadia.
platforms. Yeah. Absolutely.
I feel that's the one that Chris definitely will want to cover, as long as we can fit it
in. we know he will. We know he will. So let's look into these a little bit more then. Should we start off by looking at where should we start with this, Richie? What do you think we should start with?
Let's go through all the companies that are slated to be at E3.
Okay.
So starting off, the Pinnacle. These are E3's brandings, by the way, not mine, and I think they're pretty weird. But they have two pinnacles: Nintendo and Xbox.
Yeah.
Bear in mind, Xbox also includes Bethesda in that, and Bethesda have been traditionally one of the big tentpole events at E3.
Yeah, true. Nintendo can always be relied upon for new things.
Nintendo, they turn up and they're in Pinnacle.
Yeah. Arguably this year, I'd perhaps like to see more of the titular Breath of the Wild 2.
Please.
Yeah, I feel like that might be something to look forward to this year. And like you say, with Xbox encompassing, or Microsoft and Xbox encompassing Bethesda, dare say, we're probably going to get, what's the sci-fi game called that they're releasing?
Oh, I know.
Yeah, not Elder Scrolls 6, or maybe there might be some more about Elder Scrolls 6 coming as well, but it's
Starfield.
Starfield. There we go. I was going to go with Starlink, but that's the Elon Musk thing.
I must admit, I've never really bothered that much with the Xbox presentations at E3. Yeah. I've usually just caught up later, but that's because I've never been involved in the Xbox ecosystem. But Xbox have changed. They are pretty much more open to work with others, and they've got Bethesda, and they've been buying other companies and stuff. I'm going to be paying a bit more attention to that, especially with how good of an offering GeForce, well, not GeForce now, but Game Passes, and XCloud. That's one to definitely watch out. And Nintendo, it's going to be a Nintendo Direct. Hopefully there'll be Zelda. There's probably going to be potentially Pokemon involved. It's a Nintendo Direct at E3.
Yeah.
Well, we know that's actually next year. That's now early 2022.
Oh yeah, the Pokemon open world
it
stuff
might be
was pretty
January. Cool. It's like that's so. Yeah, and we're expecting the remakes of Diamond and Pearl in November.
Yes, Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl. Is it something like that?
So I'm going to be very excited for the Nintendo one. It's going to be great.
Richie's a Nintendo fan, can you tell?
Yeah, I like.
Nintendo's always done its own thing. It's always stuck out by itself. It's one we can all accept is fine doing its own thing, and we can love the games that we love. It's fine.
Moving on to the Premier tier now.
Premier.
Not to be confused with the Pinnacle tier. We have Ubisoft, we have Square Enix, and we have Verizon.
Yeah. Okay. So Ubisoft, we know, is having the Ubisoft Forward.
Yeah.
So we will definitely see the likes of that through this E3 2021. However, it's been hosted digitally. The likes of Ubisoft, there's so much you could go into about what you could expect to see, really, isn't there? I assume the next in the Assassin's Creed Valhalla DLC might be talked about, might be shown slightly now that we've got Wrath of the Druids. Far Cry 6, naturally there'll be more stuff about that. Where do we go from there? Skull and Bones, we know, has been pushed back even further, so
it might make an appearance. I hope it still makes an appearance.
Yeah.
You've got probably Rainbow Six.
Yeah, sorry, Siege, we know.
Yeah,
it's dated for June 12th.
The next gen parts of that will probably make an appearance. Yeah. You got potentially anything from Tom Clancy. It's a Ubisoft Forward. There's so much that could happen.
Just give me a new Splinter Cell. Come on.
Yeah, like I mean, we're almost certainly going to be, as long as it's at a time that we can actually do it, we'll almost certainly be covering that press conference.
Yeah, yeah. We usually do year after year. We've done it.
Yeah, especially since we know our Ubisoft seems to play nice with Stadia. So
Yep. With
and
the likes of Square Enix,
and
I'm
potentially
very intrigued.
this is
I'm very
potentially the one I'm
intrigued.
looking forward to the most, to be
Yeah,
honest.
I would expect my expectations going into E3 2021 is that we will see more about Final Fantasy 16 this year. I think it is now time for Final Fantasy 16. Now that we've had the initial sort of teaser trailer,
What?
gameplay.
Here's
Go
my
on.
pitch. We're going to bookend this conference with Final Fantasy. We're going to start with 7, the
Okay,
episode
yeah.
2.
Remake, integrate.
Yeah,
Yeah.
integrate. We got then maybe a tease of their 7 part 2.
Ooh, wow.
Bear in
Okay,
mind
that's
that's
bold.
still a thing.
Yes, yeah, no, you're absolutely
I
right.
mean,
It
it's going to
is.
be a tease. It's going to be potentially 2023 or something like that.
Yeah.
And we're
Yeah.
going to end the conference with 16, which
Mm,
I'm guessing is 2022.
quite possibly, yeah. Okay, I like that. Do we think we'll see anything outside of Final Fantasy? Maybe
Tomb
more
Raider,
so about Dragon Quest 12,
Dragon Quest,
Tomb
yeah,
Raider.
yeah, Dragon Quest 12, Dragon Quest 3, Tomb Raider,
Yeah.
probably Outriders, probably some more about
Yeah, more
that.
next stuff about Outriders
Yeah, the
would be a
next
good shout.
phase of Outriders. It's hard to predict. It's Square. They've got so many different franchises. Like,
Yeah, Avengers next Avengers arriving, even though not many people care too much anymore,
this
which is really unfortunate.
there's
But
still potentially a good game in there if they come out swinging
yes,
with Avengers and go, right, this is what you can expect in the next 12 months. We're
yeah,
going to overhaul the multiplayer. He's the new characters coming. He's the new storylines. That E3 could be the time then to revive that game.
yeah, that's fair.
I wouldn't say it's dead yet.
No,
It's
no,
close, but not yet.
absolutely. And just to touch on Verizon being a premier member of E3, I suppose in a way, really, or premier, they're really throwing their batch in with gaming lately. Verizon are a big sponsor of a lot of gaming events and stuff currently, particularly with their 5G packages. So for Verizon, for those who don't know, is a US based cellular company, so providing mobile phone data services and plans across the states and even beyond the states as well, but
I
mainly I
think
believe.
if I had to guess, what Verizon are doing is they're looking at how more gaming's going online with cloud streaming service, with xCloud, with Stadia, with
Yeah,
GeForce Now, with Luna, with Shadow, etc. And they're making a play to be the provider for these services for the
yeah,
US,
yeah,
which seems smart. And this is how what we predicted sometimes when things like we've mentioned things like data caps and stuff in the past, and sometimes the infrastructure will lag behind. The gaming industry can be the technology that forces this change in that industry. Because
yeah.
if all your customers are screaming out, get rid of data caps, and you get rid of data caps, suddenly there's your step up beyond your competition. And this feels like what Verizon they're doing. They're positioning themselves to win the hearts and minds of gamers in the States.
Fair enough. So those are our
Premier.
premieres.
Now on to
Premieres.
our featured.
Premieres. Featured.
And T2, I'm guessing that's Take Two Interactive?
Take Two Interactive,
And
correct.
Razer.
Razer. Take Two Interactive. Is it time to talk about Grand Theft Auto 5 coming to next gen? Which we know is happening anyway.
I'd
We
say,
already know.
yeah, so
Or do we see
Take
six?
Two. Just quick wiki of them. The main series that are listed: Bioshock, Borderlands, Civilization, Grand Theft Auto, Mafia, Chris,
Mhm.
Max Payne, NBA 2K, PGA, Red Dead, WWE 2K, and XCOM. That's
This is
not a
starting
bad
out of
list,
here.
to be fair.
It's not. No,
Yeah,
you're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. There's a lot there. There's a lot there.
next gen Grand Theft Auto is going to be there.
Yeah.
Again, it's another one. We know it's coming. It's time. Here you go with a date. When to expect.
I don't think we're going to see anything in terms of a GTA 6. I know a lot of people are sitting back and going like, "Oh, like it's about time because GTA 5 has been on 3 generations of console
If there was
now."
GTA 6 coming in the next year or two, there wouldn't be porting GTA 5 for me.
No, you're
Because this
absolutely
would be
correct.
the nice break point from it.
Yeah.
But since they've committed to porting GTA 5, I don't think 6 is coming in.
Yeah. Is it far-fetched to think there might be a BioShock 4 on the horizon?
I don't know. It's been a
It's tough to
while.
say. It has been a while. Is there room in the IP for another title?
I think there could be,
We've
because
done
it's
underwater,
been
we've done in the sky. Do we go to space?
potentially. I mean, Bioshock. There's a lot they could do with that franchise. It could be an next gen
Yes.
port as well.
Could be. Could be.
I'd probably
Like the
say next
trilogy,
gen.
the trilogy
Yeah,
collection next gen.
yeah,
Mm.
I'd say that's probably more likely because then games are quite pretty anyway. Like you start adding things like
Yeah.
ray tracing and things in and
Yeah.
next generation technologies that could give it another lease of life.
That's true. That's true. Hmm.
Save.
One to watch, I think.
I want. I like to save games, but I've never been massive on them. So like, I'll play one. Like, I'll have one, then it might last me a decade. So, but bring me a save game to Stadia, and I'll play it.
Yeah.
Um,
I mean, we're getting humankind. It's as close as, right?
we are, yeah.
As close as.
Which is Square, isn't it?
Sega, I want to say.
It might be Sega. Yeah.
I think it's Sega. But yeah, we'll certainly get to Sega in a while. But yeah, so Take Two Interactive will certainly be there, and Take Two have obviously become quite a name for themselves with the success of the GTA franchise, and essentially just eating up 2K games, and everything that was 2K games is now part of Take Two. So there could be quite a bit in that. I'm quite interested in the feature label, because the feature label, it tells me when I read these that like the pinnacle focus is going to be on Nintendo and Xbox. They're the
Yeah.
big events.
They're your big
They'll be
tentpoles. These
yeah.
traditionally
They'll be
E3's been like 3 days, and you have one showstopper. And
yeah.
every
We've got premier events for each of them.
Yeah.
Within that, within it could be potentially be within the Nintendo, within the Xbox areas, or just by itself. There is a featured
Yeah.
presentation by Take Two and by Razer as well, mind you,
Yeah.
which is an interesting one because I can't specifically say that I've seen. There seems to be a lot more brands in here in terms of like
Yeah.
equipment and stuff rather than games development,
Which
isn't there?
isn't actually. I think that's a nice thing. Like Razer are a gaming dedicated like hardware manufacturer, so
Yeah.
you might see the next generation of Razer keyboards and mice and controllers. They do phones now,
Yeah.
so they've got a legacy. So it's nice to see.
Absolutely. Absolutely. The elite tier, then, Richie.
Yes.
Going down to the elite
Yeah.
tier, which
So
again, it seems weird that elite is
I know.
down at
So we've
this
got
point.
Pinnacle, Premier, Feature, then Elite. It's like we're assuming these are tiered in order
Yes.
on the
Yeah.
E3's website. So Elite would be the fourth tier of partners, which doesn't feel very elite, but okay.
No. No.
But we've got Capcom Mythical and Freedom Games. I don't know
Yeah.
much about Mythical or Freedom Games.
I that's exactly what I was just trying to find out. Is mythical, from the looks of things, appear to be quite a bit of a ooh. No, they are. They're a next gen gaming technology studio. Mythical Games race. This is quite interested. This is quite
Yeah.
quite interesting actually. But I don't know much about them, so it might be a good opportunity to learn more about Mythical. To be honest with you, because this is not a studio that I'm very familiar with.
Yes.
Hmm.
And there isn't a huge amount about them on the website. So I'm guessing.
No, there really isn't. It's quite
Yeah.
fresh. It's quite minimal. So maybe that's why we don't know anything about them, because perhaps they're not out there yet. And we also have Freedom Games as well.
Yeah.
Freedom Games.
Freedom, they seem to do focus on smaller titles in indie stuff. I
Yeah.
think they're almost like a publisher for indies,
Yes, that would make sense.
which is
would make
cool.
sense.
Yeah, literally, there's a submit pitch your game button on their website, so they're making it quite easy for you to get. But indie developers probably like one or two people teams
Yeah.
and stuff. There might be
that's
some
really
gems
good,
in
that is.
their back catalogue that I'm just not even heard of.
There could be, but that could be a nice opportunity for an indie showcase at
Yeah,
E3 as well, where we have a collection of like, these are all the titles that you can expect to see in the coming future. They'll be coming to these platforms. We can't wait for you to try them out.
and I'm
Yeah,
guessing because of the name Freedom Games, there's a lot of, well, yeah, the publishers. There's probably a lot of. I imagine a lot of the developers keep a lot of the rights and like vision of what the game. So there's very little. Imagine very little interference from them.
quite possibly, yeah. And naturally, we can't go on talking about this
Yeah,
section without speaking about Capcom, can we?
yeah.
Really? Again, such a linchpin in the gaming ecosystem. We've obviously had Resident Evil Village now at this point. Do they talk about DLC for Village at this point? Do you think enough time has elapsed since the game's come out since they start talking about the first DLC for it? Because we know we had it with Seven with Biohazard.
Um, I think Reverse is going to be in there. But
Okay.
yeah, I think maybe DLC for Village could be
Yeah.
announced. What else have we got of Capcom? There's like Marvel versus Capcom. So
We've got the
that's
Devil
probably
May
dead.
Cry games. We've got Street Fighter Classic.
Yeah.
Is it going to be a Street Fighter 6 or do we still go with 5? Because 5 is still very heavily used in competitions. But at this point, is 5 years old as well.
I feel like I'm going to be a bit of a broken record in this episode, where I
Okay.
think there's going to be a lot of next generation ports announced,
Yeah. Okay.
especially
Okay.
with the effects of the pandemic. Publishers are probably scrambling to make up for lost revenue. A lot of, well, not lost revenue. Development times have probably been massively
Yeah.
extended. We've already seen so many games get, even from big publishers like Ubisoft, get delayed.
Yeah.
So things like next generation ports. Oh yeah, you like Street Fighter? Yeah, come at the next gen as well. We've given it a
Fair
bit of a
enough.
facelift and it's coming across.
There is also Monster Hunter as well, don't forget.
Yeah.
There is Monster Hunter in there as well, so maybe there could be some more news about that. There are rumors out there, not to do this to you, Stadia folk, but there are rumors that we may see the likes of Monster Hunter and Devil May Cry on Stadia, but who knows? I mean, that could be like any old rumor, really, couldn't it? And that's only
Yeah.
through that Capcom deal that got us Village
I'm
and
not sure what to
Biohazard.
expect from Capcom, to be perfectly
Yeah,
honest.
neither am I. Neither am I.
Can we move on to our showcases?
Yeah, the showcases then. So there's some more of the
Yeah.
the firms that people might be familiar with
Yeah,
here,
there's a
I
lot
think.
more of these, so we're not going to every single one. So we've got
No.
Warner Brothers, Bandai Namco, Gearbox, Sega, NetEase Games, Binge, Eureka, 24 Entertainment, and Amico, which is in television.
Yeah. Okay.
Warner.
Where to begin? I suppose with Warner Brothers, like again, I feel bad because Chris isn't here
I
because
know, it's like,
Chris just sweats Warner Brothers, doesn't he? Really?
well, Chris is a huge Lord of the Rings fan, and they
Yeah.
currently have the IP.
Yeah.
That's basically
And the
sums it up.
Batman games and the Batman games
Yeah,
too.
so we've got Batman, we've got Lord of the Rings, we've got Harry Potter.
Yeah.
There's your showcase right there. Like,
Yeah, like we've got what the Legacy at Hogwarts or whatever it's called, the Harry Potter game.
who publishes the Lego stuff? Is that one?
The Lego stuff is Telltale, which is Warner Brothers, I believe now. Yeah.
Yeah.
Is it No, not Telltale. Traveller's Tales.
Yeah.
Traveller's Tales, which is Warner Brothers. I'm sure of that. Yeah, so the Warner Brothers games, I mean, you just have to look as far as the film IP, don't you, really, and just go from there. They've got a hell of a catalog to work with there. But what we will see, who knows? It could be anything. It really could be anything.
I'm hoping
So-
there's stuff in there that comes to Stadia.
I
I'm not
I
expecting
would
it, though.
agree with you. No, I would agree. I would like to say that I would be hopeful, but I'm not going to be too.
I think it's
I
probably
don't. Yeah.
time as well, if they're going to keep the Lord of the Rings franchise going, that we're getting an announcement for the next in the Shadow of Mordor, Shadow of War series.
Yeah, yeah. Shadow of War 3.
We've got Golem game coming as well.
Yes, of course we do. Of course we do.
There's a lot of
that
these,
to look forward to.
a lot of this stuff that I think it's time for them to re-emerge, and E3 seems to be the perfect place to do that. And moving on, Bandai Namco.
Yeah, Bandai Namco. I mean, this is the source of most of our JRPGs. Typically,
The ones that aren't Square.
Yeah, basically, if you're not going to find them from one company, you'll find them from another there anyway. Either that, or you're going to find yourselves with the likes of, I mean, going as far afield as like the Dark Souls games are always published by Bandai Namco as well. So I wonder if it's time for the Elden Ring as well, which was the Tolkien-inspired Dark Souls-esque game that was coming out, which was, I can't remember. I'm going to say something that's quite bold, but I'm not 100% sure whether it's correct. But I feel like the Elden Ring, which is going to be the new Dark Souls-like game from Software, I feel like they teamed up with George R.R. Martin to write the story. I
I
feel like that's
think
happened.
that's true. I remember that was the
Yeah, I
first thing
feel
that
like
came to my mind when you said Elden Ring.
yeah, but he can't finish the Song of Ice and
Yeah,
Fire books. So, is this game ever coming out? Who knows?
yeah. It's
Yes.
Hideka, yeah, Hide, Hidetaka, Hidetaka Miyazaki and George R. R. Martin.
And George R. R. Martin. Okay.
That's a team up.
Yeah, it is to be fair. So we could potentially get something like that from Bandai Namco. Very recently or very soon, Scarlet Nexus is coming out as well, which there's a lot of hype around. A lot of hype around that. They have got a few titles slated for immediate release or have already released. Like we know we've had Little Nightmares 2. We've got the Tales of series as well. Bandai Namco. I really like the Tales of JRPGs actually. So it'd be nice to
Good job
again
one's coming to
that
Pro.
yeah, I'd love to get the Tales
That's
series
Trials.
on
That's
Stadia.
that,
Yeah,
and that.
Trials. Yeah, Trials. The Tales of like Tales of Symphonia, Tales of Zillia, Tales of it's just Tales of stuff. Great series. Yeah, again, maybe even more Dragon Ball games.
Yeah.
Bandai Namco again. Who
Extra
knows?
expansion Xenoverse, maybe Fighters Z2.
Who knows, man? Who really knows? But again, this is all speculation today, isn't it?
Yeah.
Gearbox, Borderlands,
But
Borderlands 3. It's out. Has been
yeah,
for over a year.
I'm trying to think of something that is Gearbox that isn't Borderlands, to be perfectly honest.
I don't think there is. Godfall.
Godfall, yeah.
Yep, Godfall.
Homeworld 3, which I actually don't know anything about.
Okay.
Risk of Rain.
Yeah, okay.
Uh, that's it. Trover Save the Universe was technically published by Gearbox. There might
Yeah.
be some more VR stuff from Sponge Games.
Godfall is an interesting one though, because it's a PS5 release,
Yes.
which it was one of the titles that was very much like, this is PlayStation 5, this is Godfall.
And I think it just came out as, well, its Metacritic was 61.
Yeah.
So
It didn't come out
didn't
with
land.
no.
But
But
for a game that was getting sold as this is your killer IP, almost your killer IP for the platform, it just didn't seem to land. 'Cause I forgot it came out. But it'd be interesting.
And E3 wouldn't be E3 without having another classic tentpole, even though they are now only at the showcase level, which is Sega. Sega, which it always saddens me to see them so far down a list now, but it is what it is.
Especially when it's the era of Sonic. It's Sonic's birthday. This should be pinnacle. Once upon a time,
Absolutely.
Sega would have been at the pinnacle, or at least premiere.
But you've touched on it right there. I think really with E3, I think it's going to be Sonic centered. It has to be for the 30th anniversary.
Yeah.
So I think we see a lot more stuff to do with the 30th anniversary, in terms of more about the new game that's going to be coming out, that was teased. Talking about Sonic Colors. Was it Sonic Colors Ultimate or something? Can't remember what the name of it was now.
Bear in mind, when we're down at the showcase level, I'm not expecting a 1 hour press conference here. I'm expecting maybe a 10-minute video.
Yes.
Yeah. That's where I'm thinking looking. So I wouldn't expect a lot. Which is why I wonder if did they bring out the Sonic stuff now, just to get some of the stuff out the way, because if they only have a smaller presence.
Perhaps.
And they've got things like the new anime, new cartoon coming and stuff. That's a Sonic Colors thing as well.
It is. That's true.
And whatever the tease of the new Sonic game.
Absolutely. But yeah, like Richie said before, I don't think we're going to delve too much into any of the others. We have got NetEase games. We talked a little bit about a couple more of these. We talked about Eureka Studio, which is a Chinese-based studio that seems to be producing games at the moment. And interestingly, about a platform called Binge that might be revealed at E3 too, which looks to be. At first look, there's very little info out there, but at first look, it looks to be a Twitch rival. So we'll watch with bated breath to see how that goes down.
Like Twitch rival or Discord rival or something along that.
Yeah.
The logo is of clearly a man wearing a headset or woman wearing a gaming headset. Put it that way.
Absolutely. 24 Entertainment and Intellivision Amico, which is, I believe, it's their new little system, their little gaming system that they're messing around with. So, yeah, that's the
quickly round up the exhibitors, because there's another tier. We've got Marvelous XC Games, Turtle Beach, Devious Eye Entertainment, Otterbox, Burgos Games, Dream Track, Ghost Street Games. Some of these are hard to read because of the style of the logo. Hooded Horse, The Sixth Hammer, Arcade 1-Up, At Home Arcade, Ghoulie Kit, and SK Telecom. And participating, we have Norton Gaming.
Because who doesn't want an antivirus by Norton?
Norton are getting a participation medal.
Yeah,
yes, you're there as well.
Sticking their nose in everyone's business, but yeah, you're absolutely right there. So,
but yeah,
that rounds out E3 really. I don't think anything's going to change now at this point. I think that's going to be it, isn't it?
Yeah. Going through this, I'm quite excited now.
Yeah,
I
think
overly confident for Stadia. We've barely mentioned them this episode, but as a general gamer, I am getting quite excited.
Fair enough. But yeah, that's E3 2021. I guess at this point now, we wait until the event actually happens and then report back on it after the event.
We asked at the time of recording, we're still waiting for the actual schedule to come out. We know it's June 12th to June the 15th. Which is why when I've mentioned things like the Ubisoft Forward, we don't have absolute dates on that yet, a date and time. So, but it's likely if things do fall well for us, bear in mind we do have full-time jobs, that we will be covering as much as we possibly can.
Yeah.
Have you got any other thoughts left about E3?
Not in particular. I'm sort of I don't feel like I'm as excited as you said before, but there are elements of that I definitely want to check out. Like I do want to see the Nintendo Direct. I want to see the Ubisoft Forward, the Square Enix presentation. But outside of that, I'd be quite happy sitting back and just reading news articles and getting the news drip fed to me.
Same. Like,
I think that's these
you're
events
not going
are
to
always
get a
sort of
Sounds
like
of Stadia covering television. Put it that way.
No. It's these types of events are very much like you pick and choose what you want to watch. That's why the schedule is there, isn't it? Really.
And bear in mind, traditionally, this is a thing that happens usually takes about 3 to 5 days. So often I'll be reading stuff at work and like I'll miss things like big press conferences because it just happen to be on times when I'm out.
Yeah.
So fingers crossed we get some live coverage for you. But
we hope so, folks.
That's all we have time for you this week. Thank you very much for watching. Make sure you like the video, subscribe to the channel, hit the bell for notifications. If you want to support the channel, we do have YouTube memberships. Make sure you check out our other shows such as the Sound Stadia podcast, which comes out every single Monday on YouTube and all podcast platforms. And well, if you're not a member, check out a live stream that we did last night. Discord's in the link below. Thank you very much for watching. I've been Richie.
I've been Tom.
We've been Sounds of Stadia.
And there's a blank space.
Yeah, that threw me a little bit, actually. We've been Sounds of Stadia. Quest completed.